All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Pillmore. I'm the president of EIP Financial Education, and as you probably know by now, we are cash flow maximization experts, and we're always looking for great resources to provide you with tools that allow you to stack the odds in your favor as both business owners and consumers. And today we've got a very, very special treat for you. It's a presentation that is called Building a Business That is Bigger Than You. And we've got a very special treat guest experts here today. Before we dive right in, let me just go over a couple quick housekeeping items. First and foremost, you've got to understand that this information for some can be more difficult to learn, but it can also be very easy to implement. And the key is going to be giving us your undivided attention throughout today's class. In order to do that, make sure you turn off your phone, remain distraction-free, take your notes, and write down your questions, because you're going to get a gift if you have the endurance to make it all the way to the end of the class. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. And the second part to this training is totally customized. Okay, it's based on your specific needs. Also, make sure that you reference the website for more great education. Keep in mind that we're teaching things from being 100% debt-free, including your mortgage. We're teaching things from obtaining business credit and getting all of the capital necessary to grow and expand your ventures and financial goals as quickly as possible. And in order to do that, the first step is to educate yourself. All of our education is provided completely free of charge, so we encourage you to take advantage of that. Now, we've done a background check on today's speaker, and it came back with glowing reviews. In fact, Aaron Young is the CEO of Laughlin Associates and considers himself a strategic thinking partner for entrepreneurs and business owners. And he's got the expertise to quickly get to the heart of complex issues, seeing solutions, and helping to illuminate a path toward forward progress, which is what we're all looking for. We also have looked into the Better Business Bureau rating, which is currently an A+. They have tens of thousands of very, very happy members, and Aaron today is going to be sharing with us some non-focused information. We're also going to talk a little bit about what their services are and how they might be able to benefit you. Without taking too much away from Aaron and diving right into the heart of today's conversation, let me go ahead and turn the floor over to Mr. Aaron Young. Aaron, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Matthew, it is my pleasure to be here and to be in front of your audience. My goal today is going to be to really give people some very, very specific information that's going to help them to protect their business, to give them the greatest level of lawsuit protection, and to really give them some actionable things they can do right away to make their business better. You know, our mission here at Laughlin, we've been in business since 1972, and we have tens and tens of thousands of clients now, about 44,000 current clients. We've helped well over 100,000 business owners over the years to grow their companies, to protect their assets, to reduce their taxes. And that's really what we're all about. Our mission is to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and profit from their businesses. And the way we do this is we help people figure out the right business entity to be in. So is that a corporation, LLC? Should they be a nonprofit, a professional corporation, and so on? Help them with lawsuit protection planning. So lawsuit protection, asset protection, from our standpoint, since we don't sell insurance or anything, when we say asset protection, we're talking about protection from litigation. We're talking about separating assets. We're talking about making sure that that corporation or LLC that you've organized is being managed in such a way that if there ever is a challenge, that it will protect you. Now, corporations and LLCs don't ever die. They just get a new president, they get a new board of directors, and so part of what we do is help people with estate planning. How does this business that you're growing, how do you pass it on to the next generation, or be in a position to sell it, or you know, whatever? What is it you're doing so that this thing can still be around after you're gone? Like I said, Laughlin's been around since '72, and I'm the third owner of Laughlin, and the previous two owners have both passed away. So it was this company has been able to outlive its creator and its other stewards. And that's how you want your business to be. You want your company to be an asset, not just a glorified job. So we help with estate planning, corporate compliance services. That's what I was just referring to about making sure your corporate veil is intact. We're going to spend a fair amount of our time today talking about that. We also do other things like trademarks and so on that can help you get all those fundamental, foundational, overarching, undergirding elements all put together so your business is organized. Now, when I go around and travel and speak all over the country, I typically talk about four things: asset protection, tax reduction, corporate veil protection, and receiving the life that someone has dreamed of. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, that's nice, and I've heard all those expressions before, but I've realized that what people want really isn't asset protection. They want asset liberation. They want to be able to leverage the stuff they have. They want to be able to not be afraid, not be hunkered down, but to be going full force into the market, to be capturing market share without a lot of fear. And not that they need protection because they're doing something wrong, but we live in a very litigious world, and we want to make sure that the way we have our assets organized, they're safe and protected and able to be completely aggressively deployed into the marketplace. Tax reduction, everybody talks about it, but I think what people really want is more cash. They don't want less taxes. It wouldn't matter to you if you're paying 99% tax rate if you had all the money that you could possibly ever want to grow your company, have the lifestyle you want, and so on. What we want to do is figure out how do we expand the cash that's available to us? How do we keep more money in our pocket? And how do we use our business entity to provide a pay raise for us as we go forward? Number three, when we talk about corporate veil protection, what we're really talking about is creating real life, real strength, real muscle for your company. Because what you want is a company that's going to protect you. What you want is a real business, not just an alter ego of you. And when you do proper corporate veil planning and protection, when you treat your company like a real company, that gives life and muscle to that corporation or limited liability company so it can protect you. And then the last part is exit planning. I talk about exit planning, and you've probably heard that before. And that's maybe not that exciting of a term. But here's what we mean. You know, entrepreneurs work very hard with a lot of risk. They put their own money on the line. They work more hours for less money and with more risk than they would ever do for an employer. And why do they do it? They do it because they believe that down the road somewhere, they're going to finally receive the life of their dreams. And that's what we want. That's what we're talking about with exit planning. How are you organizing yourself? How are you building this asset called your business so that someday, when you're done with it, when you're ready to sell it or pass it on, and you're able to take the real big fruits of your efforts, how are you going to use those fruits to provide you what you've really been working so hard for? How do you receive the life of your dreams? That's what we do at Laughlin. That's what entrepreneurs want. That's what VIP is teaching you. These are things that are critical to entrepreneurs. Now, the key to your success is to begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey taught this in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but it's an age-old piece of wisdom. Begin with the end in mind. I always tell people, when you're starting your business, or even if you've been in business for a long time, some folks will put together a business plan, which I think, unless you're going to go out and raise outside investment capital, a business plan is, in my opinion, not that valuable. It's often just a work of fiction that is not really something that ever gets truly developed. But what is critical is that you have a vision of where you're going, and you're able to completely smell, taste, feel that vision. If you can write down on 1 or 2 pieces of paper exactly what it is that you want, what does your business look like if it's functioning perfectly? How many employees do you have? What kind of customers do you have? What are you providing? How does your office feel? What's the attitude there? How do you spend your time in your day? What about what's your life like if this is working just right? If you can get that vision clearly in your mind, and if you can write that down on a piece of paper so that you can believe that vision is true, that will help you reverse engineer everything else you need to know. And once you've done that, you can begin to put the building blocks together to build the business, build the fortress, create the palace of your business that you want. Now, the reason people use corporations and LLCs is because there's a lot of risk in the world. You know, here's a list of several things: copyright disputes, children. I've got 5 kids, all of whom I've gone through the teenage driver. I've got my last one who just turned 16. Believe me, your kids driving a car on the highway is a risk to your business. Accidents on the job, you know, working with other companies, doing contracts, hiring and firing employees just bring a whole raft of potential liability, discrimination, harassment claims, and so on. Those are all some of the risks that we have to deal with business owners. And so we set up these entities, these corporations and limited liability companies, so that we get asset protection and tax savings, protection from creditors, estate planning, prestige and credibility. Protection against creditors is really critical, and a lot of people that I meet who are heart-centered, kind, good, fabulous, sweet, wonderful people who are building a business, when they have a business that fails, a lot of times one of their highest priorities is to get anybody that they had to default on paid back. Now, I think that's a nice idea, and truthfully, I've done that before in the past, but I want you to understand, the government of the United States of America knows that there are only a very small percentage of people among the 330 million people that we have in this country that are insane enough to be entrepreneurs. They're crazy enough to take the risk, to work the hours, to know that 5 out of 6 projects they start are going to fail within the first 2 years, and that they're probably going to lose everything they ever had going into this crazy thing called entrepreneurship. The government knows that, and yet they also know that they're completely dependent on entrepreneurs to create jobs, to create the economy, to build wealth in the United States, to make stuff, sell stuff, hire people, hire third-party vendors, get money into the community, and so on. They need entrepreneurs. So they've done a couple of things to help them out. One is they've given them protection against creditors. 5 out of 6 companies are going to fail in the first 5 years. The government does not want you bearing all the burden, all the weight, all the chains of failed projects. They want that company to be able to end, close its doors, cauterize whatever bleeding there is, and for the entrepreneur to get on with their next project. Now, that is not to say you should be out kind of defaulting on things on purpose or having some sort of fraudulent activity. But the fact is that even while you're going down in flames, if any of you have ever started multiple companies, you know what I'm talking about. Even as your company is going down in flames and you're going to lose everything and you're firing your employees and you just see the whole dream crumbling, you're still sitting down to lunch with your friend and going, you know, I've got this great idea for this new thing. That's how entrepreneurs are. They've always got other ideas percolating. The government wants you to proceed with those, so they've given you protection. That's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you set up a corporation or LLC, to separate you, the human being, you, the creative instigator of projects, from different business ventures that may or may not work. Now, let's get into the real heart and soul of this conversation. Here's one of the most important things I'm going to teach you in our time together. I am not the corporation. The corporation is not me. Let me say it again. I am not the corporation. The corporation is not me. As entrepreneurs, we get very hung up on the passion that we often feel for the business projects we're involved with, to the point where we cannot see ourselves separate from the corporation. We and the business become totally entwined with each other. And the problem with that is that if you can't see your corporation, if you can't see your limited liability company as utterly separate from you, then you will make a lot of mistakes that will come back to haunt you if you're ever in a situation where you're either being challenged, like by a lawsuit or an audit, if you're wanting to sell the company, even if you're wanting to go through bankruptcy. you and the company, if you're not separate, the company's going to not protect you, and you, the human being, are going to become burdened with all the debts, all the responsibilities, all the burdens, all the chains from that failed enterprise. You won't get that protection from creditors. You won't have that separation that you want because you're making rookie mistakes. So remember, I'm not the corporation. The corporation is not me. Let's talk about how we can achieve that. First thing is you got to get a business entity set up, and you want to make sure you're making the right choice. Now, some of you are sole proprietors. A sole proprietor is just you. There is no business entity. It's just you. You have complete risk. There is no liability protection. You have limited deductions. Now, you do have some business deductions. I don't want to infer that you don't get business deductions, but you don't have the same. First of all, you have hundreds and hundreds of less business deductions. You have no liability protection. You're limited in what assets or what losses can be carried forward. You can't get corporate credit because you're not a corporation. So some people say, okay, well, let's not be a sole proprietor and be out there on my own flapping in the wind. Let's go ahead and set up a corporation. C corporations is how corporations start. C corporations are all the public companies out there. Why? Because they can have different classes of stock. Anybody can be an investor in a C corporation. It's easy to go out and get angel money. You can have funds or other sort of investment organizations put money in. You can create stock incentive programs for your employees. There's just all kinds of great things. Also, you have a different calendar year. You can choose when your calendar year is, which is very important when you have multiple companies of different fiscal year ends because you're able to do tax planning where money can be moving between corporations and sometimes be deferring your taxable income. So those are valuable things with a C corporation. They do require some compliance issues, a separate tax return, and so on. And some people say, well, I don't really want to go through all that stuff. Maybe I should do something simpler. And a simple corporation or an S corporation is great for small companies, great for closely held companies, great for a company where maybe the spouses own the company. A lot of times the husband and wife will own a company together. They both want to be stockholders. An S corporation can be great in that situation. Usually these are smaller home-based companies, or they can be at an office out there someplace, but they're usually closely held small companies without a lot of employees, one or two owners. They want to have all their gains and losses flow up to their personal Schedule C on their own tax return. So if you want to do that, you file a Form 2553. The IRS gives you permission to be a simplified company, an S corporation, and off you go. The other entity that people are really using these days to great advantage is the limited liability company. The reason people love LLCs is because they're super flexible. You can basically organize ownership any way you want. It doesn't have to be based on your paid-in capital. In other words, if you're gonna have mostly passive investment in your company, in other words, people that are putting money or resources in don't really want to be involved in the business, then maybe a corporation is better. But if the people want to be actively engaged in the business and want to receive the gains and losses each year, then LLCs are great. And you can take somebody that maybe has a great database and somebody that has some money and somebody who's going to do all the sweat equity kind of work, and they can come together. They can choose how to divide up the profits, how to divide up the ownership, how to divide up the losses, and how to distribute those. It's a tremendously flexible vehicle. LLCs are really designed primarily for multiple members. So a one-member LLC, while it will work, and while a one-member LLC is a good structure for like a slave kind of a company, like maybe there's a holding company that has LLCs that are holding real estate, for instance, then one-member LLCs are okay. But as your primary operating business, sort of the mothership, a one-member LLC is not ideal. Also, from a tax perspective, not as ideal as a two or more member LLC. So if you have questions about that, or if you are a one-member LLC, at the end of this, we're going to be giving you a way to kind of get some of these questions answered and make sure that we can take a laser-focused look at your situation. So if I say things as we talk here that kind of make the hair on the back of your neck go up a little bit, don't worry about it. We can solve all your problems, answer all your questions, but be aware, one-member LLCs are not really what limited liability companies were organized for in the first place. So those are kind of the main entities that people use. They're either a sole proprietor, C Corp, S Corp, or LLC. Now, once you get that entity set up, you're going to see something awesome. You're going to see yourself get a pay raise. Now, if you're already an LLC or corporation, maybe we'll say something to you here in the next few minutes that will go, oh, there's a little light bulb coming on. Maybe there's a way for me to get better tax advantages from my company. Because as a properly organized and understood LLC or corporation, you turn everyday expenses into business deductions. Corporations and LLCs give you a life of deductions, things that were traditionally after-tax spending that are coming out of your pocket, right, because you're a W-2 employee or you're just not thinking clearly as a business owner. When you get a clear vision of how cool the opportunities are for using your corporation or LLC to pay for things that you can benefit from as an individual, you'll see that pay raise happen, and you'll start to see this life of deductions. Now, here's a tiny list, the tip of the iceberg of some things that can be deducted when you're a properly organized business entity. And I just want to give you a few things to look at so it would just kind of awaken your imagination, and you would start thinking about, oh my gosh, braces, gardening, what do you mean boats can be a write-off? What's that, what kind of technology, what do you mean a health club and babysitting and so on? How does all this work, right? So we want to make sure that we understand this pre-tax life idea. Here's a couple of things that you may not know about. Did you know you can borrow $10,000 from your company, interest-free, but you need to make sure that it's documented correctly. A lot of us, when we're in a closely held company, we think, well, I've been putting all the money in, I can take all the money out I want. But remember, once you put money in, unless it's a properly organized loan, it's going to be characterized typically as paid-in capital. So even if there's money in the business and you want to take money back out, or you're further down the road and you've got a lot of money in your business and you want to figure out, how can I've got a personal thing I need to deal with. Here's a cool thing. You can borrow money up to $10,000 interest-free. But you got to document it correctly. If you take more than if you take $10,001 and you don't organize the document properly, that's both going to be corporate formalities and the loan document. And if you don't assign an interest rate, when the IRS looks at that loan, not only are they going to say, hey, what's going on? Was that really income you were taking? But they're also going to assign an interest rate to you. They're going to tell you how much you should have been paid instead of you deciding what you want to be paying within whatever boundaries are applicable in your state. Those are kind of cool things to know about, and most people don't know. Did you know that if you have a piece of, let's say you have a vacation house, like a beach house or a lake house or a ski house or whatever. If you go to this section of the IRS, Publication 527, Section 280AG, it says that you can rent your vacation home to your company for up to 14 days at whatever the prevailing rate is. Now, you've got to be reasonable. In other words, if you say, we're going to hold our board meeting, and we're going to have a retreat for the officers and directors of the company, and we're going to look around, and so you go check 2 or 3 hotels and see what would it cost there to have sleeping accommodations and a meeting room and so on. What would that be? Well, it turns out that we can rent our vacation home for, something right in the middle of the rates that you found by looking at commercial rental places, and that you can receive that income for up to 14 days a year, and you don't even have to report that income. You can just take it and put it in your pocket. Take a look at the code. See what the code offers you, because when you start to learn even the basics of what's in the IRS code, you will see that the government is providing tremendous incentives to entrepreneurs. They want entrepreneurs to take risks, and in return, they give you all these benefits in the form of deductions and tax credits that they don't give to the workaday employee. This is not for the rank-and-file citizen. This is for those brave entrepreneurs that are taking risks. That's why I gave you the code section. Go to your accountant. If you have a vacation home, go back and ask them about this and say, how can I use this to my advantage, okay? Kind of a fun little thing to know about. Achievement Award. Now this, let me put a big asterisk on this, okay? This is not going to apply to everybody. You cannot combine these awards every year and so on. But let me teach you something you almost certainly don't know. And in doing so, what you're going to do is your imagination is going to pop right up, and I want you to go to your CPA and say, how does Internal Revenue Code 74 apply to me and my business? And have I been taking these? And I'm going to say probably not. And if not, how can you begin to take advantage of achievement awards? Okay, first of all, there's the safety award. Who in your business is responsible for keeping the workplace safe? Because IRC 74 says you can have a safety award that's given out every year, and it can be given to an employee or a percentage of your total staff. If it's just you, then, you know, you are 100% of your staff. But like at my company, we have about 3 dozen employees. So you can give up to 10% of the people an award. So that means we could give 3 or 4 people the award every year for safety. And here's the way you have to do it. There's some rules you need to follow. First of all, have a meeting of the board of directors, and the board of directors has to get together and say, hey, let's give the safety award this year. And then they're going to say, well, I wonder who we should give the award to. And they're going to talk about the employees. And then they're going to make a decision. They're going to pass a resolution that says, we're going to give the safety award to, you know, Mary Jane Johnson. She's been doing a terrific job. Or if you're the only employee, maybe they're going to say, we're going to give it to, you know, Aaron Young is going to receive the safety award this year. And in the meeting, you're going to say, okay, you know, yep, he's been doing a terrific job. So it's moved. Let's make a motion that the safety award is going to be given to Aaron Young for this year. Then the thing is seconded. Now, if you're having a meeting by yourself, like most of us, because we're the only members of the board of directors, you're going to, you know, it seems kind of crazy to have an official meeting where you're actually having a conversation, making a motion, seconding the motion, writing down a resolution. Most of us as small business owners don't do that. We think it's ridiculous. But let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is the law. It's not just a good idea. It is the law of the land. Every corporation is required to do it, and frankly, LLCs are required to do it based on not statutory law, but case law. And so if you're a C Corp or an LLC and you want to take these deductions, you have to go through these steps that seem ludicrous, that seem schizophrenic, but you have to do it because it is the rule. And if you do it, the safety award can take $1,600 and put it tax-free into your pocket. It's deductible to the company and non-taxable to you, okay? But you have to follow the form. The other award that you can receive is the longevity award. Again, $1,600 a year. Again, you have to have a meeting, minutes of the meeting, pass a resolution. Oh, there's some other things that you have to do that have to be properly documented for these. Besides the meeting, the minutes, the resolution, there has to be, now this is your IRS working for you, ladies and gentlemen. There has to be a certificate that's presented to the recipient, and get this one, there has to be a meaningful presentation of the certificate. So if you're a big company, if you ever watch that show, Undercover Boss, I love that show. And at the end of the show, they usually have a big meeting with all these employees in a big auditorium somewhere where they talk about what happened to the boss while the boss was undercover. Well, not all of us have a doc. Not all of us have a big theater in our company. Most of us are, again, it's your kitchen table, it's your spare bedroom, it's your shared secretarial office someplace. So you have to figure out how to do that meaningful presentation. For some folks, it's as simple as print out the certificate, hold it up next to your face, pull out your smartphone and take a picture and post it on Facebook and say, hey everybody, celebrate with me. I just got the safety award for 2015. Anyway, this is the rule, okay? And longevity award, safety award, those can be great things that are deductible to your company, not taxable to you, but you must follow the rule in order to take the deduction and defend the deduction, okay? I just gave you a ton of information. I hope it didn't go in one ear and out the other, because what I just taught you is the basic foundation for defending all of your deductions and for protecting your corporate veil so that if you're challenged someday, you know exactly what you need to do. Have a board meeting, keep minutes, pass resolutions, follow the rules, act like a real business. What are some other ideas? Well, you can hire your kids. Remember, begin with the end in mind. People come to me all the time. Aaron, can I write off my kid's car? Can I write off my kid's college? Can I write off my kid's wedding? The answer is absolutely no, no, no. You can't do it. But what you can do is you can hire your underage child, your dependent child, who has to be your kid under the age of 18, not your niece and nephew, not the kid down the street that mows your lawn or whatever, your dependent child, and you can deduct $6,350 a year. You can pay them up to that much. It'll be deductible to your business, not taxable to the recipient. That means the kid or your household. Did you hear what I said? You can pay them $6,350 a year up until they're 18 years old. It's got to be age-appropriate work, and it's got to be real work for your business. Unloading the dishwasher, cleaning their bedroom doesn't count. But stuffing envelopes for a mailer you're going to do, helping you with your social media. Most of your kids are going to understand social media better than you are. Maybe they can be a model for your website. Maybe they can make phone calls for you. Getting your 6-year-old to change the oil in the company van does not count. But hiring your 17-year-old to work a trade show booth absolutely counts. And if you begin with the end in mind and start hiring them from as young ages as possible and keeping that money put away, then when they get to an age where they say, Mom and Dad, I need this expensive pair of tennis shoes. I want to buy these fancy jeans. I need to get a car. I want to, whatever they want to do. I want to go to a movie tonight. You know, do you have $20? They'll already have money in their account because you started using them as a child to do business related things. You paid them. You took that as a deduction. So instead of taking money out of your paycheck, this ends up becoming 30, 40, 50% less expensive. You didn't pay taxes on it. The child didn't pay taxes on it. And they have the money. And if you really want to begin with the end in mind, put some of that money in a Roth IRA so they start doing their retirement planning at age 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 years old. They're going to thank you for the rest of their life. $6,350 deductible to the business, not taxable to your household. You're spending money on seminars, on other kinds of masterminds, workshops, all kinds of stuff. VIP's got tremendous programs that you can invest in. They're going to help your business. These things are deductible. If you're a small, closely held company and you're doing everything yourself, if you're not using a virtual assistant, if you're not using a housekeeper, you're, in my opinion, not serious about your business. You're basically, you're putting yourself in a $10 and $12 an hour job instead of hiring somebody to do that work for you, writing it off as a business expense, and you going out and doing things that are worth $100, $150, $200, $500, $1,000 an hour. Only you know what your time's worth, but let me guarantee you, managing your calendar, scheduling appointments, and cleaning your house are not things any serious business owner should be doing. So hire the right people to take those small burdens off of your plate so you can get serious about your business. You should have terrific medical plans. Your company will pay 100% of your medical, including cafeteria plans where you can get things like chiropractic and massage and acupuncture and daycare and so on and so forth. But did you know you can also, if you have a corporately organized resolution for a wellness plan in your business, you can set up a physical fitness facility on site at your business. And if your business is at your house and you want to have a treadmill and free weights and a flat screen TV to help you with your yoga practice or whatever it is, if you pass a resolution and organize that, your company can pay 100% of the expenses related to that physical fitness site. Now, it's got to be reasonable. I work most of my time from my home office in Southwest Washington. My company, where all my employees are, is in Reno, Nevada. So I can have a physical fitness facility on site in Reno, but it's not really reasonable for me to have it in Washington and not have that available to the majority of my staff in Reno. But most of us on this call are running closely held companies. Almost all of the 10 million companies out there, 5.91 million companies in the United States have 10 or less employees. Out of the 10 million corporations or LLCs, almost 6 million of them are being run from home or from a tiny office. So you can have a physical fitness facility 100% paid for by your company. Is that freaking awesome? Okay, client gifts are a great way to build relationships with your customers, but there are rules. Remember, if you send it to the specific individual, if I send it to Matthew, I'm very limited to $25 of what I can give in a client gift. But if I send it to VIP and I don't designate an individual recipient, all of a sudden, pretty much the sky's the limit. Retirement plans, not only can you put in the max into your retirement plan, but your company can put in $40,000 a year into your retirement plan. So you can fund huge amounts of money. If you're successful in your business, your company can put a boatload of money in the retirement plan. Remember, you have to make that equal for your employees. Everybody gets to participate. So if you have a very successful company with lots of employees and you want to put a lot of money into your plan, odds are you're going to end up having to contribute heavily to your employees' plans as well. Your car's a gold mine. Most of us just write off our mileage or our gas. $7,231 is the number the IRS website says is their average expense for a company vehicle. Did you know the IRS gives you tons of information on irs.gov of what they but it's hard to find, but it's there. They give you a boatload of information of what they expect that a small business will be writing off. It's pretty cool. You've got to be willing to go in there and dig around for quite a while. That's why we're sharing this with you. But the bottom line is there are tremendous expectations that the IRS has that a small business is going to take these deductions, and the deductions are usually bigger than you're taking. So learn this stuff, folks, and get the most out of your IRS report so you get the most deductions, right? You want your tax return to take full advantage, not cheat, not over take advantage, but to take full advantage of everything that's legally at your fingertips to take. Now, as prescribed by your doctor, if your doctor says that your health is really in jeopardy and that you need some other kind of treatment that's not part of your health insurance program, your company can make a decision to pay for that thing where maybe you're having to go to Europe or go to South America to have some surgery or some treatment that's not available in the United States. That can be paid for by your company. Deductions as a W-2 employee, not a lot. Deductions as a business owner, tons of them. Okay, basically employees get taxed, corporations take deductions. Learn that. Get that straight in your head, and you will live a big, big life. There are huge benefits that come with business ownership. There are huge benefits that come with business ownership. Ladies and gentlemen, you should be taking these benefits, every one of them. But with those benefits come responsibility. The biggest mistake in my industry that I see that business owners make, the single biggest mistake, is they don't document the business decisions. They don't do that thing like I talked to you about on the safety and longevity work, where they have meetings, they keep minutes, and they pass resolutions. They fail to act like a real business. See, these formal documents, the minutes, the resolutions, the corporate record book, the stock that's been issued, and so on, those formal documents are the only thing that prove you and the company are separate. Remember what I said? I am not the corporation. The corporation is not me. That's the most important thing for you to remember. You have to act separately. You should be acting with your corporation or your LLC just as separate as you and I would act with each other. We may be best friends. We may trust each other implicitly. We may want to be able to move money back and forth. We may want to be able to loan each other different resources, which could be equipment or licensing of intellectual property or whatever it is. But we will always have a contract. We will always have a note. We will always have an interest rate. We will always have documents that explain why we decided to do it. Because I am not the corporation, and the corporation is not me. Okay? What are we talking about specifically? Minutes. See, your corporation, your LLC, are a legal fiction. That's what the government calls them, a legal fiction, a paper person that has all the same rights, opportunities, obligations, responsibilities as a human being does. The two big things that a company cannot do, that a person can do, that corporation cannot think for itself, that's the job of the board of directors. It cannot think for itself. It cannot speak for itself. That's the job of the corporate minute book. And hopefully you know what, many of you may not even have a corporate minute book. It's a big 3-ring binder that has a little plaque on the side of it with your company name on it. And inside it has a bunch of sections. It has articles of incorporation. There's a basically identical thing for an LLC. You have articles of incorporation. You have your bylaws. You have your section for the minutes, the resolutions that have been passed, the stock certificate, the stock ledger. You have these elements that show the life and decisions of the company. And most of, especially if you've gone online and you've ordered something from some kind of an online service and you just got the cheapest thing they offered, or you went down to your Secretary of State's office and you filed for $100 or $200 or $300 with the state, you will probably have a very fundamental articles of incorporation, but nothing else. But did you know without the bylaws, or in the case of an LLC, the operating agreement, without stock certificates or membership certificates, if you've never signed those and distributed them to you or other owners or members, you don't even own the company. All of this would be documented in your corporate minute book. This is the memory and voice of the company, the minutes and the resolutions. They are the memory of your company, and the resolutions are basically permission slips. So this is what we decided in our meeting, that we told the president of the company or the manager of the LLC, go do this work, go make this deal, go sign this lease, go buy this equipment, whatever it was. So you have minutes and resolutions. Those are the critical memory and voice of the company. It doesn't matter that you're the only owner. It just doesn't matter. The only thing an adversary, potential buyer, a bankruptcy court, an investor, the only thing they care about is what's in the book. And if you don't have a book, you're in deep trouble, okay? Because if you're ever challenged, you will have your corporate veil pierced, and they will treat your business like a sole proprietor, which means everything that you own is on the line to satisfy the judgment or a tax problem, okay? You become exposed. If you don't have that corporate record book, and if it's not up to date, you're exposed. The greatest exposure comes during audits, lawsuits, a divorce, partnership breakup, or bankruptcy, okay? Just to give you a little idea about audits, but in 2012, the President of the United States earmarked an extra $1 billion to the IRS, specifically to hire more revenue agents and increase the number of audits. Something similar had been done 3 years before, where $400 million was given to the IRS. We don't have the statistics for the $1 billion increase, but I do know what happened with the $400 million increase. The IRS hired 13,000 new auditors, and audits against companies of $3 million in revenue or more actually went down 22%. So companies of $3 million in revenue or more, audits went down. Audits against companies of $3 million in revenue or less increased by 38%. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. The reason audits are up against little companies is because little companies are an easy target. They don't keep corporate records. They don't have, they usually are doing, like using TurboTax, or they're using their uncle or somebody as their CPA. They don't have a real legitimate controller or CFO. They're treating their company checkbook very much like a household checkbook. They're probably using QuickBooks or something, but the point is they're acting still much more like a sole proprietor, and they're an easy target. If the IRS audits you and they disallow deductions, and they can go back 3 years and do this, not only can they disallow and you have this big tax bill, but they can ding you up to 45% in penalties, right? They can hit you a 45% penalty, and if you can't pay the bill, they will also charge you interest on the payment plan that they will give you. So you don't want to do this, but if you don't get your ducks in a row now, you will be exposed, and audits are up, and they're increasing against small companies. So there you go. The other thing is lawsuits are a big problem in the United States. We have 5% of the world's population, 75% of the world's lawyers, 94% of the world's lawsuits. Why? Because we allow lawyers to work on commission, on what they call contingency. And because they can work on contingency, if they think there's a nice pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, they will take a contingency lawsuit, and they end up taking a big, huge chunk of whatever they win. Now, do you think lawyers work on contingency against a company that's got a strong corporate veil or that looks like they don't have a lot to get? The answer is no, which means if it's a frivolous lawsuit, it will almost always get stopped dead in its tracks by a properly organized company. It doesn't show that it's got tons and tons of assets all over the place. It doesn't show that it's got a lot of equity. It looks like the owner's doing some planning. Lawyers are smart. They know how to find the easy targets, and they know how to quickly identify the hard targets. And you have a choice. You can be a hard target or an easy target. That's something we can help you organize. But you have to be intentional in your planning. Okay? If you're not intentional, you're an easy target. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says, as U.S. experience has shown, excessive litigation creates enormous costs for businesses, workers, and consumers in the overall economy. The U.S. legal system is the world's most costly. Every 25 seconds, some business owner is getting sued. And here's what we know. We know that 57% of the world's of the United States lawsuits against companies, 57% are being filed against companies with revenues of $1 million or less. Let me say it again. 57% of the lawsuits are filed against companies that have less than $1 million in revenue. Okay? Just don't be an easy target, and you will never have a problem. People say this to me all the time, Aaron, nobody's going to sue me. I'm a nice company. I'm a nice person. We're small. People don't even know about us. Why would anybody ever sue me? As I said, it's the little guy who's getting sued. It's the little guy who's getting audited. If you're one of those companies that's underneath that $3 million mark in revenue, you have a huge likelihood of being audited. Wake Forest Law Review says piercing the corporate veil has become the most litigated issue in corporate law today. In every case, the plaintiff's intent is to acquire not just the business assets, but the personal assets and the business assets of the company. And at least half of them win. Why? Because we're an easy target. We don't keep corporate records. We don't have a corporate minute book. We don't issue stock. We don't have a company that will stand up against an audit. We have no corporate veil protecting us, so it's immediately pierced. Why is it the most litigated issue? Because it's easy to do, and the pot of gold is bigger if they can get the owner's assets and the company assets. This picture should be pretty self-explanatory. Who are you in this picture? There are tons of reasons, over 100, that the court will allow your veil to be pierced to put the business owner responsible and liable to satisfy any judgment. Some of the most common ones are not keeping your corporate and your personal funds separate, not keeping your credit card separate. Make sure that every single solitary time you sign anything on behalf of the business, anything, put your title down, okay? Always use your title, always. Because when you don't, and if you go out of business, and let's say you're going through bankruptcy or you're being sued, and you don't have your title on documents where you are clearly acting in a leadership role for the company, your adversary can say, well, you were treating this like what they call an alter ego. You were treating this like sole proprietor, okay? You weren't consistently acting as an officer of the business, and so we're going to pierce your corporate veil. Or if you go bankrupt, they can say, well, you signed that without using your title, which meant our relationship is with you, the individual, not you, the president of the company. Super important. What else? You must issue your stock or membership certificates. If you don't do it, as I said, if you don't issue stock or membership certificates, you do not own the company. You're not the shareholder. Learn that and act like a big company. Act like a real company. Issue stock. If you're scared, we can help you. If you've never done it, we can show you how. It's simple, but you've got to do it. Remember, I am not the corporation. The corporation is not me. When you get that clear in your heart, in your head, in your daily activity, and act as a shareholder or act as an officer or act as a director, when you understand the role that you're playing with the company, you will make decisions that will keep you safe. Okay? Corporate formalities are the documents and procedures that business entities are required to do. It's not just a good idea. It's not for a big company and not you. It's not for somebody else. It's required by law. If you have a corporation or an LLC, you're required by law to maintain corporate records. If you do that, you can get the liability protection, you can get the tax deductions that you wanted when you formed the corporation or LLC. If you do not do them, you have no protection. Maybe you don't have protection, you don't, whatever. It's like I tell people all the time. You can speed in your car everywhere you go. You can drive over the speed limit every day, everywhere, go 150 miles an hour. It never will matter until you get caught, until you get challenged by someone in authority. And when you get caught, ignorance is no excuse. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to do this if you want the protections. And it's not hard to do, but it must be done. People say, well, what really needs to be documented? Don't I just need to do an annual meeting? Don't I just need to, have this thing that my re-election of the board of directors that my CPA does for me every year? The answer is no, ladies and gentlemen. There are hundreds of things that need to be documented. Here is a tiny example of the things that need to be documented by corporate resolution, where you have to have a meeting, you have to have a discussion, there have to be minutes kept of that discussion, there has to be a resolution passed. We know we're supposed to be doing something, but we don't know what to do, so we do nothing. See this? All these little yellow stickies? This is a tiny fraction. We do this for thousands of companies. We provide this do-it-for-you service where you don't get a bunch of templates. You get to have someone do it for you. We do this for thousands and thousands of companies. We are the experts in this. You can go to your lawyer and have them do it. You can do it yourself. You can try to relegate it to an employee. You're the only owner. You're having your board of director meetings in your mind while you're driving, while you're falling asleep, while you're standing in the shower. That's where you're doing the planning, the forward forecasting for your business. And no employee is going to be able to do it for you. So you've got to figure out a way to capture the things that need to be captured onto paper in the proper format and put those things in your corporate record book and pass resolutions. It is not hard, but it is something you need to fully understand how to do, and then you need to take the time to do it. We use 256 formal documents for corporations and a similar set for LLCs. Things need to be, you have to know when to write the resolution, know when you need one, put the right resolution together, and put those documents in your corporate record book. So here's your question here at the end of our time. Are you in compliance? And if you're like 95% of the almost 100,000 business owners that I speak in front of every year, the answer is, well, you know what the answer is. You know what the answer is. Usually by now, people are sweating, people are freaking out, people are saying, does this really apply to me? They're scared. In my live presentations, no kidding, and I don't say this with any pride. I've had people come up to me and cry, men and women, tear up and go, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start to get caught up. I don't even know where to start. But here's the deal. If you fail to keep corporate records, and if you're ever sued, you have a 50 to 94% chance of losing your personal assets in order to satisfy that business judgment. And that's not me telling you, folks. That's Cornell Law Review. So here's what I want you to know in conclusion. No matter where you are, no matter how far behind you are, no matter how freaked out you are right now, it's all fixable. It's all fixable. And it's fixable at a price that you can afford. It's fixable. You can be 20 years behind, and it's fixable for hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. Okay? So you need to know this stuff. There's a great line in the scriptures that says, you have been taught. What else can I say more? You know now. An hour ago, you might have thought things didn't apply to you. You might not have known you had to do meetings. You might not have known the things that needed to be documented. You might not have known that it really applied to you. You might not have known some of the great deductions available to you. Now you know. And now you need to take action as a business owner and figure out where do you stand. And I need you to know, and Matthew wants you to know, that no matter where you are, it's fixable. That's why we put together a free offer for you guys to get you focused in like a laser beam on where you are now, get a handle on what needs to be done and what great opportunities you have that maybe you're not taking full advantage of, and how to organize a plan so that you not only protect your assets, but you really start living that pre-tax life that I talked about midway through this discussion. So with that, Matthew, I want to turn the time back over to you, and thank you for inviting me on to teach people what I believe is critically important information for every single entrepreneur in this country.
Aaron, all I can say at this point is wow. You know, I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's become blatantly obvious to me over the last decade and a half that with that comes tremendous advantages and risk. And I am all the more willing to admit to that after seeing what you have to teach. I agree with what you said. You know, there's two parts to success, and that includes both knowledge and action. And I think we would all agree that the knowledge part is a much smaller percentage of that equation. So with that, the next step falls on our plate. You know, we need to be able to take that next step and learn where we are, learn where we need to be, and understand a plan to get ourselves there, which is no different than what we do with our education and services as well. So, Aaron, I want to say thank you so much for being here today. Guys, make sure you take advantage of this offer. It is only available based on the supply, and it is, like everything else, only limited. So don't delay. Move forward and get yourself on Laughlin Associates' calendar to get yourself a review session, get your questions answered about your specific circumstances. To do that today, guys, visit CIPbusinessbuilding.com, which is a custom website that we put together in order to get you scheduled so that we can ensure that that will be a cost-free session for you, and you can decide from there whether or not there are solutions that will meet your needs, and there inevitably will be. So make sure that you do what's necessary to get yourself on the right path. Thank you so much, Aaron.
It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the good work you guys are doing. We appreciate our relationship with you, and I hope people will take advantage of a lot of times it can be scary for people to admit when they're behind or what they don't know, but I'll tell you, learning and taking action, as you said, will make people's lives so much wealthier, so much safer, so much happier, and they'll sleep better every night. So I'm grateful for the time together and look forward to working with you again on teaching some more great information.
Great. Thank you so much.